What up, y'all? Welcome to the Man Cave. I'm M3L with G Money and my homie D Brown. What's going on, fellas?
What up? What up?
Chilling,
What up?
chilling.
Now, we took a little break. Like we usually drop every other week, but I think this time we went maybe 3 weeks
3 weeks.
since our
Yeah.
Yeah,
last
3 weeks. Yeah,
episode.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Because we was running around, schedule was kind of hectic. Um, but last episode we kind of talked about the different images of like the black fathers. And throughout the last 3 weeks, we've been connecting and we've been kind of talking about like just like the masculinity in men that's being portrayed. And it was just so crazy that's what we chose to be our topic weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And this topic is kind of like, as far as for me, it's been popping up in other conversations outside of our conversation.
Pardon me.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like my girl had just I forgot what we was watching or listening to, but my girl just brought it up like, yo, it's like niggas ain't even niggas no more. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like
Yeah.
ain't nothing wrong. Ain't nothing wrong. I feel like me personally, I feel like it's nothing wrong with being in tune with your sensitive side,
Right.
but like it's like guys don't even look like guys no more. Like it's like
Yeah.
everything is like ultra tight and like
Yo, man,
extra
Westbrook had a
feminine.
dress on, my dude. Like when
Yeah,
they
like it,
showed that yesterday, I seen it. The picture of it. Me and G Money was talking about that last night. Like it's like, yo, dog, this dude Westbrook got a skirt on, bro.
yeah,
Like,
it's
and I'm like, come on, man, what you
it's
doing? I understand, like y'all want to get into this fashion thing, but
and
that's just too much to me. Like I'm gonna be
and
honest with
and let's and before we even get into it too heavy, I just want to be clear.
you.
Like
So,
it ain't even so much as far as being like homosexual or nothing and nothing to disrespect your preference and gender you like to deal with and so forth. But it's just more like just a man being a man or a manly man, like in that sense. So
mhm.
I don't want like before we get too into the conversation, like I don't want like nobody to get it confused, like we trying to like throw shots or disrespect in any state of form of those who prefer to deal with the same sex.
Like
You know what I'm
whatever your
saying?
sexual preference is, that's your sexual preference. Like
Uh,
Facts.
we gotta realize, like we just lost a great actor in Michael K. Williams.
Right.
Michael K. Williams portrayed he portrayed a character, excuse me, Omar in The Wire. Omar he was gay, but he was still a man. He was very masculine.
And,
You
and,
understand what I'm
and not
saying?
to cut you off, G, but and this ain't even like no hypothetical shit. I heard him say this in an interview where he wouldn't say his preference.
Right.
So I think he
mhm.
was more in tune with the Omar character than the world might know.
Well, not even just the Omar character. If you in the show Lovecraft Country, you know what
Yeah.
I'm. He was like that in that show too. But I think like a scene that was so outstanding is that when his son found out, you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
he called them the F word. You know, I'm not going to say the word, but
Right.
he called them the F word, and he had a shirt in his hand, and he threw the shirt there, and he looked at some in his face, and he said, "Boy, you better respect me because I'm still your hot damn daddy."
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? I'm still your hot damn father. Like
Right.
I think
Right.
that was an outstanding scene because it was like, regardless to what my preference is, like, boy, I still put food on the table. I still put clothes on your back. You
Right.
know what I mean? This is just what I like sexually, but I'm still a man.
Right.
Right.
You know, so I thought that was, like I said, a scene that a scene that was great because, like you said, we're not talking about sexual preference. We're talking about masculinity.
Right.
So,
And it's a difference for those who
Yeah,
don't know.
it is. It's a very big difference. A very big difference. But like even like y'all said with like Westbrook, like rocking the skirt. Like I said to D Brown yesterday, I said like I feel like Westbrook had a lot of influence on ushering that stuff in because if you remember, he would always dress kind of weird to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? With like the tight clothes, like the high waters, and it just wasn't. To me, it just wasn't something that I thought a man would wear.
Right.
Right. His fabrics is crazy.
So
His fabrics is crazy.
so let me ask y'all this. Um, where do y'all stand as far as like the media or the industry kind of like pushing this more feminine men on like just the people, the children, and
Yeah,
stuff.
I think they don't. I say this the right way. It's almost seems like they trying to do it to black men. To be honest with you,
Facts.
you know what I'm saying?
I
Like it
agree.
seems like it's
I,
more towards black men. Black men have been a symbol of masculinity for the longest. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the problems why a lot of times black men go through so much because we're perceived as such a threat. You know what I mean? We the only black men are the only race of males that can walk down the street and people of other races will either walk in the other direction or go to the other side of the road. They don't do that with no other race outside of African Americans. You know what I'm saying? They don't do that with other men of
Right.
other
We're
races.
considered threats
We're
before
considered
anything.
we're considered threats. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, um, and in our community, masculinity is a very important thing. Like it's
Very.
very important. You know what I'm saying? Like from every guy that we mentioned in our last episode, we're just talking about black fathers. Every father we mentioned on TV or was all masculine men. You know what I'm saying? It was all masculine men. You know what I'm saying? And not to get too deep into that because we obviously, like we said, it's not about that, but just to give some context, we know Reginald Vell Johnson was a known,
homosexual.
homosexual. He was a known homosexual, but
And
he
he
was
was
very
one of the people we spoke of last episode as far as
fat.
being one of the
That's
the
why
black
that's
father
why I made
images.
mentions of him. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
In this, and currently, because but he was still very masculine, and he played a very masculine character. You didn't look at him and think he wasn't, you know what I mean? Think he wasn't nobody other than who he portrayed to be.
As well
You
as
understand
Uncle
what I'm saying?
Phil.
Exactly. Uncle Phil was too, but they both was very, very masculine men. It was a good um that it's just like I said, that's very in our community that has always been a very important thing. Like we make the last episode again talking about my grandfather, my father, Mel talk about your father, G Money talk about your father. All these are masculine men, very, very masculine men. You know what I
Right.
mean? No chumps, no pushovers. They was masculine men. You know what I mean? And those are the men that we looked up to because see, we are also as men in our homes, we're also looked upon as a form of safety,
Protectors,
protectors,
providers.
providers, and I mean, and I want to, highlight protector, you know, some God forbid, you know what I mean, somebody tries to run and do harm to your family or try to disrespect your home in some kind of way, as the man that's in that home, you are looked upon as the one that has to protect and have to, deal with that situation, if and when it comes.
Right.
Or and if it doesn't come, if it never comes, we still have to be prepared for it too.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying to you? You don't, if a threat comes to your family, you don't look at your lady to defend that.
Right. You either
A
you
physical
looking to
threat,
either lose
a
your life
formal
or
threat.
take a life to protect yours.
Exactly. So, and so these things in our community, masculinity was always and has always been like major, major. And it just seems like, to go back to your question, it just seems like the way that the media or socially, it's like they're trying to move us from being who we are. I'm not talking about the tight clothes and all that stuff. We're not even talking about that because granted, I don't agree with it, but even though Russell Westbrook, wears, wears like questionable, fabrics, you don't question his masculinity though.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like they're trying to change that amongst us in our community more so than any other community.
And I feel
Well,
like this though. Oh, go ahead, G.
no, I was going to say like what we have to realize, even when you look at all the images, like even the images on television, when you go back to like the 70s and you go back to like Shaft and Dolomite and those characters, right? Regardless of what they were, you know what I mean? Whether they were pimps, hustlers, cops, whatever. There was always that sense that you knew, like, yo, these are the men. You know
Yes,
what I
sir.
mean? That's a man's man. You know what I mean? Like whatever come their way, they gonna hold it down. You know what I mean? And that was us. Now, remember when we were growing up, like when you had like certain like fabrics, like we talk about fabrics a little bit. I remember there was a time we would never wear certain things because it was like, nah, bro, I'm not gonna wear that. I'm not
Hmm.
gonna wear this. I'm not gonna wear that because it's not gonna make me look like a man.
Right.
You know what I
Right,
mean?
right,
I
right,
remember
right.
when we wore Tim's and we still do, but I'm talking about a time when we were growing up. Like we wore Tim's, we wore hoodies, we wore certain things because it made us look tough. Not
Tough.
just, but it made us look masculine.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Nowadays, when you see it, it's like it's almost hard to determine the males from the females. And I think that happens a lot because now with this whole gender thing and pronouns of
That's a
he,
whole nother conversation, boy.
right, like he, she, them, I think a lot of that stuff has like kind of ruined it. You know that now these young men growing up don't know who they are or what they are, or don't know who they want to be or what they want to be.
That's like
Now,
back in that. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I
no,
was
no. But I was just want to say this, D, real quick. I feel like even like as far as back in the days, those who were like their preference was same sex. I feel like even then there was still like guys who were masculine, but that's just what they preferred as far as sexually. You know
yeah.
what I'm
Right.
saying? Like regardless of what they preference was, they were
Hmm.
still masculine. Like I'm still a man.
No, yeah. See, because like to take that a step further, it's not even just sexually. It's
Right.
also the law of attraction.
A fact.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying to you? Like it's
Right.
also, being, where we come from, masculinity was also attractive to
Yeah.
the opposite sex. You know what I'm saying? Or whoever you're trying to attract. These things were, like how many women see was dealt with a man, and he may not have been the most quote unquote handsome, but
Right.
he was attractive because he was a man. Things about him, you know what I mean? He was masculine. You know what I'm saying? Like his presentation was, and that again, that's another lane to get into here with this conversation is, his presentation was masculine. He was a man, and when he spoke with diction.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like going back to what we talk about, all the we get we hip hop fanatics. So when we go back to the guys that we came up on, listen to the way they spoke. Like listen to Tupac voice. You know what I mean?
Right.
Listen to
Right.
Big voice.
They
Listen to
tones.
DMX voice, KRS One, Rock Kim, Daddy Kane. You go down the list. You hear it. They spoke like men. You know what I'm saying? They
Right.
sounded like strong men, and their presentation, like me and G Money talk about all the time. Talk about Lil Sean and all that. Like G be like, yo, Lil Sean act like he beat up every rapper ever lived and all. Because he's still but he's cut from that. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? He's cut from that same cloth, that um level of a masculinity, and portraying that. And see, there's different ways to portray masculinity, and we're not just talking about everybody being ice grilling gangster. You
No,
know what I mean? But you know, we getting into like y'all remember, coming up, man, when your father, when he raised his voice, that would scare you as a kid,
Right.
you know what I mean?
He ain't
Because
have to
that
do
was like
nothing.
they had to do nothing because it was like it felt like the ground shook. You know what I mean? Because he
yo,
was,
D, let me tell you this real quick. Like you say that, right?
right.
Remember one time my pops told me do something. I can't remember what it was. He said do so and so. And back in the days, like sucking your teeth was like
Oh my gosh,
the
Yeah.
no.
worst thing you could have done.
That was
And I
no,
remember
no.
he
That
said
was almost like cursing.
exactly
Word,
fact.
That's like talking back.
word,
Like what?
word.
Yo, my pops would tell me all the time, like, yo, like if I say, oh shoot, he would always tell me, boy, you better
Too
not
close,
say because you
too
really
close.
want to say shoot.
Right.
Yeah, you
Like
too
that's
close.
what you want to say.
Yeah.
But he said for me to do something, and I like sucked my teeth. And he said, you know what? He said, I'm not going to do nothing to you. He said, but I want you to listen to me. He said, I'm from Southside Queens. If I ever tell you to do something and you look at me, you suck your teeth, he said, I'm not going to beat you. He said, no, I'm not going to get a belt. He said, because you a man. He said, I'm going to take you outside. He said, and I'm going to show you why I'm a man from Southside Jamaica, Queens. He said, because you're going to have to put your hands up to me like a man
And we're gonna
since
step
you
in the street.
a man.
You want to be grown. This is what a
That's
grown man.
the man. That's the old school
That
attitude, bruh.
he said that, yo, if my pops told me jump, it was how high and where.
Word.
It,
Yo, G Money, my pops, I ain't even gonna hold you. My pops rough to this day, man. Word. It's like he's older and he's just older. Ain't nothing wrong with him. He's just a little bit older now. So he's a little bit more
right,
calm. But it's crazy because when he get in his little, like, somebody rub him wrong or whatever, you
yeah,
still be in him. Like he be on that, yeah, it ain't went nowhere because he got older. That thing is still up in him. You know what I'm saying? That ain't never went
That
nowhere.
that don't
but
never
you
go
know what?
nowhere though. I
Like,
don't care how
right,
old you
No.
get.
they'll never go nowhere.
And
It'll never,
see,
like I say all the time, like when we see men, like we talking masculinity, that's what made me like, because Mel from my hood. So, I keep it a beam. Like I remember seeing his pops on the train in the morning, like if I'm going to school or something like that. And like I said, his
yeah,
pops was always suited and booted.
yeah,
So those were symbols of a masculine man. And just to show you how crazy it was, because Mel, no, his father wasn't the tallest man. Like he wasn't
Right.
big in stature. But you can see on a train with like you're talking about the train being packed with like people from end to end, but he commanded attention because,
yeah,
like I said, this man was always sharp. He was
yeah,
always clean,
yeah,
always a symbol of masculinity.
That's
yeah,
a fact.
I mean,
yeah.
so those are the kind of images that we had growing up.
And that's the reason why this generation. I mean, I didn't mean to cut you off like that though.
No, that's fine.
But
It's
that's the
fine.
reason why this generation. I think that's part of the reason why this younger generation of men don't really understand us like that
Right? They don't.
because you know society. I'm not saying that. I'm like I said, we're not talking about running around with you, walking heavy all the time, and you
No.
walking both sides of the road at the same time. We're not saying that, but but we are talking about embracing the fact that you are a man, because that's really what this conversation really is. Like, and being comfortable and being prideful.
Right.
Like, I take the fact that I'm a man. I'm proud of that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I
Looking
hold
like a man, dressing like
yes,
a man,
I
smelling
hold that
like a
with pride.
man.
Exactly. Like you start asking yourself
Right.
questions like, all and it's weird because the biggest one, and it's always been around, but now it's like a real fashion statement now. Though now it's like, everybody got a beard now as well as myself. You know what I'm saying? But everybody got a beard and everybody carrying a beard. But that was a symbol of masculinity though. Is
Right.
you would have been look at all them old pictures, man. You look at Teddy P and you know what I mean, and Isaac Hayes. You know what
And
I'm
D,
saying? And these
not to even cut you off just before. Remember when we was younger, like We couldn't wait to get the little couple of
Could,
hairs
couldn't
on
wait.
your
It was
face. Like, what? You
important,
see
dog.
this? Like, I don't see that.
Yeah.
Look, it's right here. Like, you couldn't wait to get to that point to getting facial hair.
Because that was a symbol of you becoming a man. You follow what I'm saying to you? And like, and we have all these symbols. Like that's crazy. Like I had this when you look at stories, and I actually believe that this before I get to the story, let me say something. I believe that the story I'm about to say is true. It's real, but not factual. Yeah, what I mean, you understand what I mean when I say that. When they talk, we know the story of John Henry. You know what I mean? I do believe in the story of John Henry, but I don't believe John Henry was one person. I believe John Henry was a multitude of black men, you know what I mean? And they created and they gave him an image. You know, they put him into one person and said, this is what he does. You know what I'm saying? Because if you look at a lot of old pictures of John Henry, he resembles Jack Johnson. You know what I mean? If you look at a lot of the old pictures and a lot of the old drawings and the cartoon figures, he resembles Jack Johnson. You know what I mean? The boxer. You know what I mean? But this man was a symbol,
right?
Again, of masculinity. You know, of a man being a man. You know, and his power tool. You understand what I'm saying to you? And you know, and see, this is another important, you know, this is another reason why we're talking about this because and why it's a reason why it's important for the fathers to be in the house,
right?
So kids can get that. And I mean, great. And if
Give
you're
them
not in the
something to
house,
see.
whatever,
You gotta
or
see it.
being around, you know what I mean? Because you know, because sometimes like being raised in a single parent household, and you know, the mother's the parent that's in the household, it can have sometimes it can have one or two effects on you. You know what I mean? You could be extra hard. You know what I mean? Like, you know, because when you get of age, you know, I gotta defend, especially if you got siblings, I gotta defend. You the oldest, I gotta defend. I gotta, you know, protect my moms and all that. Or it can make you a little soft.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes that's just training. You know what I mean? You're a little soft. You're a little more, you know, in tune with your sensitive side. You know what I mean? Not that anything is wrong with that, because, you know, I know a lot of masculine men that are, you know, they ain't scared to cry. You know what I mean?
Right.
They ain't above crying and getting emotional and all that, but they still very, very masculine. You know what I mean? And just get back to the original question, you could see the changes going on. You could see it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, what's wrong with a man wearing a Caesar, dog? Like, and I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody, but all these men gotta have long hair.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, I'm just talking about a balance. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a man having long hair. I just mean that at least when we was coming up, we got a balance.
Right.
You know,
Because
it wasn't
remember, you had
everything.
guys like Rambo who had long hair.
Yes.
But you never questioned his masculinity. Be like,
no, you didn't. No, you didn't. So we had a balance of all the things. But when you take away the masculinity and just get a man long hair,
right.
now we have a different. Now this is a different conversation. Now it's a whole different line of work. Now, you know what I mean. And when I was, and me, I looked at every male that I looked up to, and still into this day, and some of the men that I look up to this day are all masculine men. You know what I mean? And I think that we have to get back to a place where it's we
okay.
are proud to be men, and we're proud to be masculine. You can't let society dictate, or we can't continue to let society dictate who we are and who we're trying to become. You know what I mean? Oh no, you're too, and it's so crazy because nowadays, man, you got certain females, they're so wrapped up in this nonsense that you can't even be polite no more. You can't even open up a door and pull out a chair.
I'm glad you
You,
brought that up.
you know what I mean? No more, because you trying to exude your masculinity on me and whatever. You can't. Open the door for yourself. Then pull out your own chair
Now
and pay for
see,
your meal as well. You know what I mean? Like,
now D, not, that you brought that up, right? Because that was gonna kind of lead to my. I don't necessarily have a question, but it's a question, right? Because we at the point, and I was like I said, me and my lady was just talking about this the other day, where like we at the point where like the females are more masculine with the dudes, like to a point like being feminine is almost looked like as a flaw.
Right.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like being
Yeah.
feminine don't necessarily mean
Yeah.
you gotta let a guy walk all over you or do what he want, or that leaves you to just kitchen duty and stuff of that nature.
Yeah.
Like you could be a businesswoman and be feminine.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You can
Yes.
stand firm and stand on your square and be feminine. Like you don't necessarily have to be rah 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 rah
Yeah.
to be able to be a woman in a man's world as far as business or anything else.
Yes.
So like I feel like that's a big misconception with young women as far as masculine, because like it's like as the guys get less masculine, the women are getting more.
More
Well,
masculine.
you know what's so, but I'm gonna tell you like this though. I'm glad you got into that right there because that takes me to this place right here. That's posturing. They posturing. You know what I mean? All that's posturing. These women ain't strong for real like that out here no more. You know what I mean? I'm not saying there are no strong women because there are strong women. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I'm not saying that. But a lot of it is just posturing because they will not. Let me tell you something. We come from a time where the women will hold down a crib.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? Because the man, well, you said the man, the way it was, and we're not trying to go back to that time. The caveman, we talk about the mentality, though, where a woman understood, you know, a woman held down the crib. She held down the crib.
Like
She's the one
40.
that yes, she
Yeah.
turned the house into a home. Now, not even just getting to that, not even getting to that, because I don't, you know, a lot of women go look at that. Oh, you trying to take us back to the caveman day? I'm not even getting to that. I'm not talking about that. But if you look at now, let's go
Well,
back.
you know what? That really wasn't man days. Like you're talking about strong women that
Yeah, but right.
didn't have child support.
But
We
let me
didn't
say this.
have
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, right. What I was getting to was okay, we talked about black fathers on sitcoms, or you know, in the portrayal, black fathers how they used to be, right, compared to nowadays, right? Now we're
Yeah.
talking about masculine, which is a kind of our first episode is, or that particular episode is springboard for this episode right here, right?
Right.
But talk about the image of a woman, though. See, if you look at the women from back then, you know what I mean? You know, like and you know, like a Pam Grier, for instance. You know what I mean? Like a Felicia Rashad. You know, and many others. This is not it. Many others. You know what I mean?
Right.
Diane
A lot
Carroll,
a lot of those women
Lena,
that played in the sitcoms we brought up.
Lena
Lo-
Horne. You know what I'm saying? These are strong women.
right.
These are strong sisters.
Billie
You got
Holiday.
to be you got to be a man to be able to deal with that.
Right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You have to, so you can't come, you know, half-ass and you know, you sensitive and you know, you don't know how to take control of a situation when necessary. You know what I mean? Like they're not gonna respect you.
Think about this. The type of man you have to be to come behind, or the type of man you have to be to try to holler at Coretta Scott or Betty
This is
Shabazz.
what I'm talking about.
And
Like
think about
you,
the kind of
yeah,
man you
okay, I had this conversation recently with a youngin, right? With a younger, one of my youngins, and I ain't gonna hold you. I'm trying to say this the right way, you know what I mean? Because you know now they out here like hippies now. They everything free. They say they get
yeah,
everybody get high, and they you know they just sexing all over the place, and you know a lot of these youngers are experiencing threesomes and all that way before you know we did, and this then the third. Like you know what I mean? I had to tell one of my little shorties, I was like, yo, dog, that ain't because your game is strong, my dude. It's the women lower their standards.
That's a fact.
Because you
fact.
ain't got to work for that no more. Back in the, you had to, we was coming up, you had to work for it. You had to put in time, put in
Be on
money,
the
put in
phone for
energy and
hours, for
feed your
weeks.
parents. And you know what I mean? It was a whole, you know, you had to put in a whole line of work for that. You know what I mean? It was like you had to earn that. You know what I'm saying? You had some loose joints. Don't get me wrong. That's always been around. But but you know, you had to work for that. You know what I'm saying? You had to have, you know, you had to have real game. You actually had
It
to be.
wasn't so easy to come by.
Think
That's
about it. Like,
exactly.
we didn't have the we weren't like we didn't have the access to cell phones back then, right?
Right. You had to call somebody's house
Right. Like I
and
remember,
speak to their parents
Word.
I remember
respectfully.
going, I remember going down the block. You know what I mean? And there's a payphone there, and I remember like getting all this change because if y'all remember, like you drop your quarter and then it's like 10 minutes you get to talk, 5 minutes, and then you gotta keep adding nickels, keep
Right.
adding.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
I remember having like a pocket full of nickels because you want to talk to Shorty. You know what I mean? And it's like you really just like how DJVlad said, you don't have to put your work in.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
with the way it is now. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like you said, like a lot of these young women have lowered their standards, and
Yeah.
we blame a lot of it on social media. You know what I mean? Because now everybody do what they do for social media. Like I've never thought the day I would hear about IG models. Like I come from an era with real models, like Kenya Moore. You know what I mean? Like those are real
There was
models.
not video vixens. You had real dances.
Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like we come from that. That's the era we come from. But I wanted to ask y'all a question. Have either one of y'all ever read the Willie Lynch letter?
Nah,
Yeah, I read it before.
You read it before. So
right.
you
A long time ago.
And you
I'm
right,
said
familiar with
you said the Willie Lynch letter.
the Willie Lynch letter. Yeah,
so
rules about the
and
black man and all these things.
right,
Yeah,
like that's why things are the way they are.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
the first thing that you
Yes,
have to do
yes,
is you put fear
yes.
in the man. Because you have to remember, even bringing us, and not to get so so deep, but when they brought us over, you know what I mean, from the motherland or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they who we were, they saw strong kings. They saw that. They saw warriors. They saw like Shaka Zulu,
That's what
stuff
it was
like
making us like that. That's what it was making us.
that. So when we were brought over here, like when they lied to us and said like, yo, there's more money over here or there's more gold over here than what you're getting here, they knew that okay, once you bring him here, the first thing you have to do is put fear in him.
Yes.
Then when you put fear in him, then you have to be ridiculed. So when they brought us here, you got to remember the things they did. They beat us in front of what? Our women.
Yep.
So it back to what you said, like it goes back to the women now about being so strong. Like how Mel just said, you know what I mean? How women want to be more masculine than men. That's generational. You know what I mean? Like when they beat you in front of your woman. Now
Yeah.
when you go back to, your little house or wherever y'all live, now she's looking at you different.
Yep.
You know, and that's where some of the abuse comes in. Because think about it. Like you have men that go out, they work for this man. This man talking down to them, talking to them any kind of way.
Right.
When they come home, the first person they took it out on was they women, was their children.
Yeah.
Because we had that fear in us of this man. And like I said, it's not to get too deep into it, but this
Yeah.
was part of the loss of our masculinity. This is how we lost our masculinity because we started, because you know what I mean? Because he put fear in us.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And this is not, and I want to say, this is not a knock towards anybody because we're not saying that, you know, that Caucasian men are not masculine.
Right.
Mel just mentioned Rambo. You know what I mean? Like he just mentioned Rambo. You
Yes.
know, we like D
Yeah.
Brown. We're fans of Elliot Stabler. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
All
Like,
day. Facts.
you know what I mean?
Facts.
Like those are
Facts.
masculine dudes. Like
Yes.
I grew up on Starsky and Hutch and stuff like that. So these are still masculine men, but the difference is these are not the men we saw in our community.
Right.
That's
You
true.
understand what I'm
That's
saying?
true. That's
We
true.
can only speak, and what we want people to understand with the man cave, we speak from personal experience.
Right.
Yes.
You know
Yes.
what I mean? So I can't speak from what the kids who live downtown, what they experience. I didn't experience that.
Not at all.
Like I can only tell you what I experienced as a kid for the book,
Yeah,
as a
yeah,
kid for Queens, as a kid who lived in Harlem. I can tell you those things, and I
right.
can tell you the type of men I saw. So we're not, so we don't want nobody to think in no way when we speak of black men that we're knocking anybody else. This is not a knock, but we just
Yes.
have to let it be known that these are our experiences, what
Hmm.
we experience.
You know what, 2G?
Yeah,
I want to touch on something you said when you was talking about men going to work and all that. I was, coming home and bringing that to their wives, and
right.
I remember the conversation with James Baldwin and Nikki Giovanni when she was talking, and she was like, he don't you you lie to everybody else, but you come home and you don't lie, but you tell me the truth though, meaning that they get, they don't know, the man you work for, he don't know you mad at him because you go to work and you smiling all the time and you doing
Yes.
whatever, whatever he's asking you to do. But when you
Do
come
whatever you
home,
tell me.
whatever he tell you to do, rather, yes. But when you come home, I get the least of you. You give me the least of you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You give me what's left over. I get the truth. You
Right.
come home and you mad and you angry and you give me all that. And she said, yo, but lie to me too sometimes. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like,
You know who the best
don't
way to
bring
me?
that.
You know, put it the best way to me, not to cut you off, but you know, put
Go
it the best way
ahead.
to me. It was you. You said when I get off work, you know what I mean? Like, yo, I gotta sit down.
Yeah.
I gotta smoke a cigar
Mhm.
because now I have to process. I have
Yes.
to relax.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I have
Hmm.
to relax first. Like you said, like, wife here come out. You know what I mean? And shout out sis.
Don't say
Like
a name. Don't say a name.
say shout out sis. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. 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 Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Because that's my sister for real. But
All day.
like, she'll be ready to talk, and you'll be like, "Yo, give me a minute.
Right.
Let me do this first."
Right.
Because now, once I do this, and I'm relaxed, and I'm cool, and I'm calm, now
I
I
can
can
hear
give you
you.
all of me.
Right.
Yes.
You
Yes.
understand what I'm saying?
And you know what? I appreciate that you said that too, because that's also, again, having that strong woman that could meet that strong man halfway,
Right.
knowing that, to know that he needs that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, it's not about, in that moment, it ain't about you as
Right.
as the woman. In
Let me
that
get
moment ain't
myself
about you.
together.
Cause yes, you got, cause you want him, to do the same to you or for you as well. When you come off work, or when cause like, when a man works all night long, all day long, whatever, and he get off work and he come home, you don't want to hear about, bills and
Right.
if you behind on rent, and or not behind on rent, whatever, you know, you don't want to hear about things you're gonna have to, like, that may could potentially stress you. You just don't want to hear about them. You know what I mean? And sometimes you just want,
Issues yet.
sometimes you just want peace and quiet. You want, or
Yes.
it ain't gotta be quiet. You just want peace.
Right.
And
You
this go
know?
for the women too, for like, been with the kids all day.
No, no
You
doubt.
need a
That's no. It's
breather.
see,
Like
it's see,
it goes
now,
vice versa.
what we talking about. What we talking about now in this realm of the conversation is partnership.
Right.
You know what
Right.
I mean? It's partnership,
Right. That's the perfect
and
word
and
for it.
and knowing, and because see, you got people that are married but not partners. They're
Mm.
just married. They're not really partners though. You know what I mean? Or they're together. They for lack of better words, they live a married lifestyle. But they're
Right.
not necessarily partners though. They're just together,
Hmm.
but they're
Right.
not partners. Being a partnership takes work. Takes
Yeah.
work. You know what I mean? That takes work. You know what I mean? If so for me to come home, and for me to go to work all day long, all night long, overnight, whatever shift you work, and you come home, it's good to come home to a woman, strong woman. I ain't talking about a weak woman. I'm talking about a strong woman, because also it's something called submission. We submit to each other. I'm not asking for the woman just to submit to me, and I don't submit to my woman. We submit to one another. You know what I mean? So what I mean when I say it is, when your man comes home from working all day, me personally, I don't like bringing none of the BS from work to my home.
That's
You
a
know,
fact.
back home to her. You know what I mean? It's unfair. So, but for her to know, yo, let him get his time. And sometimes the kids make bombard you. Yo, daddy, man, and they want to jump on your neck, and they want to, hug on your ankles, and you know what I mean, and rap because they want to show you love. But
Right.
now, and a lot of days that's cool. You know what I mean? You want that. A lot of days it's cool, but sometimes you need that strong woman right there with you to be like, hey, little Johnny and Christine or whatever, yo.
Give daddy a
Like, give
minute.
daddy a minute, man. Chill. You know what I mean? Give him a little minute. Let him relax. You know what I mean? Let him get himself together. And then when he is done, y'all have him. You know what I mean? And y'all do whatever y'all wanted. And y'all can do all the jumping on, play with it. Because now he's come down. Now
Mhm.
he's
And
now he's
even
down.
though as great as that feeling feels, you know what I mean? Because I remember that walking in my crib from, working or whatever. And, now, you know, first thing I remember, like I walk in the door and my babies were running me. Daddy, you know what I mean? That's a great feeling.
It
You know what
is.
I mean? It's one of the greatest feelings ever. But
Right.
like sometimes you just need that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I remember when my daughter was young, like when she was a baby. I remember like I would come home and I would be tired,
Yeah.
exhausted.
Yeah.
I walk in the room and she start crying. And
Yeah.
like my older brother told me, like, cause she smelled you, so she know your smell now.
So you
So
sent.
yeah, so now when you walk in that room, she knows you home. So now it's like I haven't seen daddy all day. So, you know, now I want your time. And I remember like I used to pick her up and I would sit there and I'd be dead tired. And I remember one time she was crying. She wouldn't stop. And I'm already on edge from work and I'm upset. And like I said, I'm upset at work. And I remember she was crying. She was crying. And I remember the one thing I did was I laid her down in her crib and I went outside. It just was like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to breathe. And I remember like I gotta shout him out for this. Like I remember my old head Rob I used to work with, like older Italian man. He said, "G, that was the greatest thing you could have did."
Right.
He said, "Because you didn't let your emotions get to you to where you know when you shaking a baby or when you're mad. You know what I mean? Like now you're mad at what happened from work, stuff like that,
Right.
and now you come home and the baby's crying and you upset and stuff like that." He said the best thing you could have did was laid her down, went outside, and just breathe.
Yeah.
But you know what? Now let me come back
And
and let's
deal with
start.
right in the proper headspace.
Yeah,
Right.
but and see, it takes and it takes a real man to know that. You know what I'm saying? To know, like, let me see. That's a man who's intentionally trying not to bring what goes on in the street back to the house.
Right.
No, you
Understand what I'm
never.
saying to you?
Right.
You knew that, but like I said, you got to have a woman. Like I had this conversation with this young lady. She, well, it was a couple of them. It wasn't just one of them, and they just could not. At first, they just could not understand what I was saying until another young sister came up and she talked about how it was in her home, and I had said, listen,
Excuse me.
I was coming up, man. You know, kid, as a kid, you go to school, you come home, mama cook, and blah blah blah, yada yada, right?
Right.
I remember when my grandfather would come home, and let me tell you something, man. Working all day long, you ain't getting a plate before him.
That's a fact.
Right.
It was. Nah, hold on, y'all chill. And you couldn't get seconds unless he didn't want none, because that's the man of the house. He's the one that's providing. He's a part of what provides,
He
right?
got the big piece of chicken.
And you
Yes.
did.
So, but to
You about
have the,
to say that you got the
but
big piece of chicken.
to know that, and they just, one of the young ladies, I don't deny my kids no food, but I said that's not what I said. I ain't said nothing but deny your kids no food. I said, but them kids been home all doggone day though.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They've been home. They've been home since 3 o'clock. He's been gone since 7 in the morning, and it's now 7 at night. He's been gone all
Right.
that time. Why should he have
Right.
to come home and have to wait for everybody else to get their plate what you're doing is, see, you give when you give that to your kids, you're giving them like, I don't want to say rules, but you're giving them, now I'm not even not guidelines, but you're training them, you're teaching them something. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? You're teaching them something that this this man is doing what he's supposed to do. He's out, he's working, he's providing, he's losing sleep. You know what I'm saying? He's making sure everybody's fed, roof over their head, clothes on their back, food on their plate. You know what I'm saying? So why shouldn't he be able, when he's doing again what he's supposed to do as a man,
Man, right.
right?
Right.
When he's doing his job, why he got to come home and wait for everybody else to get their food before he get his? You're teaching them something. You're teaching your kids something when you know what I'm saying? Like, you showing. My grandmother showed me something when she did that. You know what I mean? So I knew when I got into the world, you know, I look for a certain caliber of a woman. I ain't just gonna deal with any old woman. You
Right.
know, you have a criteria you got to meet,
Mm-hmm.
as
Exactly.
well as because when you hear these women talk, as the men, they have a criteria for us to meet. You know, I
Exactly.
got standards. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And you got standards, I got them too. You
Gotta be
understand what I'm
worth
saying
that.
to
You
you?
gotta be worth the time.
You gotta be worth my time. You understand what I'm
Like,
saying to you?
you know your
And
words, but I also know mine.
yes,
That's a
and going
fact.
back to that same conversation, there was another young lady who was right there, and she told, and when the other um females coming at me a little bit, she said that, well, what he just said, that's how I went on in my house. Like my mother, old school, and there's nothing wrong with submitting yourself to the right man as a woman. Just like there's nothing wrong, and he should be submit himself to you as well. You know what I mean? I'm not, we talk in terms of talking about submission. I don't mean that only the woman is supposed to submit.
Right.
I mean, the man's supposed to submit, is supposed to submit too. It's nothing wrong with taking care of your man, because just like there's nothing wrong with, or just like as a woman, you want your man to take care of you. Again, going back to the word partnership, it's partnership, right?
50-50 thing.
But we talking about, men being men and what they did. It going, like I said, going back to the original kind of conversation. I mean, the original question, or taking it back a little bit. This was a lot of this stuff was planned.
Mm-hmm.
This
Yeah.
orchestrated. You know what I'm saying? They that's why. Remember,
That's
G we was talking about. Remember, we was talking about good times. And
right.
remember, they tried to make Florida be a single mother in the projects.
Single
And
mother.
she said she would not do the role if there
Right.
was not a father in the home. And that's the reason why after he died in the series, in the show, immediately they started having her date other men, bringing them, you know what I'm saying? Because there needed
Call.
to be a presence of a
Right.
man in the home.
In the
But then what
household.
happened when they start doing, like, okay, listen, young lady, we know times hard for you. You have a family. You could be on welfare. We can give you government assistance rather, but you can't have no man in the house, y'all.
Right.
What?
It's so funny. You know, it's so funny when you look at.
But think about that though. But think
Oh,
about
right.
that.
Right.
You know what I
No,
mean?
you
Go
look
ahead,
at
B.
the Wu-Tang series, right? Like we watch, and I don't want to give anything away for our listeners and viewers watch it. But there's a scene in the new one when Dennis come
You better
home.
give it up, G. You better give it up, bro.
Nah, but
It's
when he
cool.
come home, yeah, but when he come home and his mother say to him, "You can't be in the house now because you a man."
Right. I just seen that episode this morning.
You know what I mean? You remember those days? Like even if you go to the movie Claudine,
Mm.
she have nice things in her house. Remember, dude was buying her all these nice things. Like he bought her a toaster, he bought her this, he bought her that. And remember when the lady from the welfare came, she had to hide certain things because it couldn't look like a man was in the house. Like you just said, it's funny because I saw a meme a while back, and it showed a young black woman, she was pregnant, and she said, "I don't want no man," right? Then it shows her with her children. She had like a daughter and she had a son. And she said, "I don't need no man." But all the time her son is watching. right? Now we talking about masculinity now, right?
Sir.
Then you see her son dressing like a female, and he's saying, "I don't want to be a man." You understand? So it goes to what you said. It goes to that. It goes to that teaching. You know what I
Yes.
mean? We was always taught how to be men, how to act like men. You know what I mean? Think about it. When you was young, 12, 13, whatever, we all, I know me, I always like snuck in my pop cologne. You know what I mean? Sprayed on his cologne, always sprayed on too much. But like always, sprayed on his cologne. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I remember Big Daddy Kane said in the best, he said he would watch his father get dressed. You know what I mean? How he would match his shoes with his suit and
Yo,
stuff
G,
like
you just took my analogy I used in the last show, dog. That's the same thing
I
I
know,
used. I used
I
literally the
know,
same
I know. I'm using because you know
one.
because it all fits.
Yeah,
It all coincides with each other. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's all like Tetris. The blocks fit. You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
those are symbols of masculinity.
Right.
Like
Right.
even now, like you have guys that's masculine, man. Like I gotta say it. You know what I mean? I have to. Like I can't hold it. I have to say it. I love Conway the Machine, man. I love his music.
Yeah.
I think brothers are the dopest dudes out right now.
Mm-hmm.
They remind me so much of the lot.
Mm-hmm.
But when I saw that brother with a skirt on, man, it
Yeah.
hurt my heart, man, because I felt like, damn, y'all the last of the dying breed, son.
Yeah.
Y'all,
Y'all the
y'all
last of
getting
the
on into some
Mohegans,
shit.
boy.
You know what I
I
mean? Like
understand that.
y'all the last of the real ones. You know what I mean? Like those are some of the reasons we like love, Conway, Betty, and West Side, because you know what I mean? Like you don't, like you said, you don't always have to be tough. You don't always have to be gangster. One of
Yeah.
my favorite people in the world, man, was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He wasn't a gangster, but he was a man. So when I saw this dude wearing skirt, man, like yo, it hurt my heart. Me,
Yeah.
even like if it looked flavor, somebody might have thought it
Nah,
looked flavor. It just
nah,
my
nah.
heart, man.
That don't
It
look
was like,
flavor, dog. That don't look flavor. I
Right.
can't rock with that. I'm sorry. I just can't rock with that at all.
yeah,
And see, but yo, you know what, too, though, G? To take things a step further, or GML rather, you a lot of this is you start seeing how these women, how these men be disrespecting these women like the way they do.
Mm-hmm.
Again, standards,
man,
standards, because they don't, because now they don't view women at hold women up at to the same regard as they used to, or as we used to. You know what I'm saying? So now, you see these dudes fighting women like they men,
Right.
and you seeing it
jumping.
more often.
It's
You know
crazy
what
you
I mean?
said that because I've been seeing that a lot on social media this
Like
past
they
week.
doing it, and they doing it more often. That's not something that real men do. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying that, in every generation you had men that was putting their hands on women. I'm not saying that. But now you seeing the high levels of disrespect. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You seeing it happen more often. And now you seeing, I ain't never seen it to where how you got 11, 12, 13 teenage boys jumping on a girl. That still don't, you know what I mean? That's crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy to me. We never used to see stuff like that. You know what I mean? And and we seeing it now, and it's like because now that and a lot of it is, I don't really want to say so it is, some of it is society, social media, and whatever. If when you control what people see, you can control them, because
Exactly.
you control what they see. You know what I'm saying? And these kids are seeing so much of this stuff, and it's hitting them, bow, 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 bow,
It
and they
makes it
too
seem like it's
young to
almost
really.
okay.
They're too young and too immature to process a lot of it, and they're going off of what they see. Oh, this is okay. So it's like the movie. Oh my God, what's the name of that Jackie Chan movie? Was it 64, 61, or something like that? I mean, not Jackie Chan. I'm sorry. Jackie Robinson.
42.
42?
42. I always say 64.
42.
42, right? I'm
Now,
bugging.
now,
Bugging.
no, now, just in your defense and get back to your thing, 61 was a movie. It was about the
Yeah, it was
Yankees.
a movie. It was about
Mickey
uh,
Mantle,
Mar- um, Mickey Mantle
Mickey
and Roger
Mantle
and,
and
and your
who?
and your man was it Roger Merritt?
Yes, Roger
Yes,
Merritt. Mickey
yeah,
Mantle and Roger Merritt. So
yes.
you
That's why I get it mixed up.
right, you was
So
there.
because that was my movie. You know what I'm saying?
That,
But
that, that was a
good
good
looking
movie.
on good looking on that too. Word up. But and you see, um, Jackie Robinson out there, and you see this little, white kid, and
Uh,
he's sitting there, and his father, and and all the
yeah.
people around him,
And,
they looking
and,
at him, nigger, nigger,
yeah.
blah blah blah, you nigger, and all this and the third, and he looking around, he looking around dazed and confused, and then he
Yep.
got up, and he starts saying, nigger, nigger,
Yeah.
nigger. He's emulating what he sees. He
Yes.
doesn't
Because
know
you
that
right.
it's wrong.
Right.
He doesn't have no, he has no understanding that no, that's wrong. That's racism.
Right.
That's hate. He doesn't understand that. You know
You
what I mean?
said right.
No, he can't decipher what that is. He don't know it. He don't have
He's
the
just
knowledge.
emulating what he's seeing.
He's emulating what he's seeing. Now, how does that relate to what we talking about? When you get these kids and they turn on this YouTube,
Yes.
especially if the house ain't right, especially if there ain't no father in the house, you know what I'm saying? Especially if it ain't no mother in the house, whatever the situation may be. Um, they turn on YouTube and they see 13 boys, teenage boys jumping on a girl, you know what I'm saying? And they see, this dude beating up on this, fighting this girl like she a man, knocking her unconscious and all that. And they see that, what they're gonna do? They're gonna go emulate the same thing.
Let me make the
Because
same
They
thing.
don't know that they don't know that it's wrong. They just think that it's the thing to do. You know what I mean?
To
It's no
do, right.
different when D.L. Hughley talked about it. He said that he saw his father talking about cheating on his wife and all that, right? He said, my father used to be out there, all the men in my life used to do that. You know what I mean? Cheat on their
Right.
women, cheat on their wives and all that. He said, so when I got married, I was doing the same thing. He said, I really didn't know there was nothing wrong with it. Because that was what I saw.
Every day,
Sure,
so
That
it
right.
was
almost
what
seemed
I
normal.
was so that was what I was taught. Because well, granted, sometimes you teach somebody on purpose, and you also can teach somebody unintentionally because they're always watching you. You know
Right.
what I mean? But yeah, so you go
Like
off,
somebody. Oh, God, I'm sorry.
you go off what you go off with what you see. They control what we see. You know what I mean? And you seeing a lot of that, and that's why you start to have, and a lot of these young ladies, they're over sexual, and now it's like it's like I was talking about one young lady out there. I don't want to say her name, whatever, because I don't want to seem like I'm down in her, whatever. But with her music, it was a little vulgar and whatever. I had a conversation.
Man, throw the name out there, bro.
I don't want to do all that. I don't want to do all that because there ain't no shade to it. Ain't no shade to it. It ain't even about her for real.
Right.
But and I just was a little vulgar. And I used to always be like, man, yo, she got to be mindful about the message though. You know what I mean? And then in that conversation with another female friend of mine, she was like, what you mean? There's something wrong with her taking control of her sexuality and being comfortable with her sexuality. I said, what makes her comfortable with her sexuality? Because she could talk vulgar and she could show her ass. I said, what? So you telling me Angela Bassett comfortable in her sexuality? What makes her uncomfortable? If that's the
Right.
case, if this is the image of you being comfortable and take control of your sexuality, then what the hell is Angela Bassett doing? Is that not her? Is that her not doing it because she's not showing your ass and the fact that you could chomp on the dills mean that and talking about it means that you take control of your sexuality? Is that what that means?
Like you just said earlier, Pam Grier. Pam,
Exact. That's take down. Look,
Pam Grier was a symbol
I'm gonna let
of
you go ahead and reveal because
strength.
that ain't nothing but the truth.
She was a symbol of strength. When you think about like Foxy Brown, you think about coffee, and like
Coffee.
when you think about that, man, Pam Grier was a, I mean, to this day, man, Pam Grier may be like 60, maybe 70 something years old, man. And Pam Grier is still strong.
Yeah.
The name, when you say her name, understand something. Pam Grier's brother was Rosie Grier. He was a football player. strong man, you know what I mean? Big dude. But there's so much more strength in her name than it is his. You know what I mean? Because she was a symbol of that. And you got to think, Pam Grimm, sexy. She could fight. She knew how to use them things. Pam Grimm was pulling them things out the afro, B. You know what I mean? She's pulling the little 22 out the afro.
Yep.
So you got to think that it's not being comfortable with your sexuality. You know what I mean? What you're doing right now, and we gotta call a spade, man. You comfortable with being a smut.
Basically.
That's not cool.
Basically. Yeah, basically.
You know, like somebody said to me, they said, wow, they said, yo, your daughters are really doing good for themselves or
Yeah.
whatever. And like you said, it goes back. See, when they were young, it was all Disney Channel and Nickelodeon.
Right.
It was never nothing like I never let them watch anything R-rated, anything that may have had any vulgar language, any explicit scenes. I
Hey
never
yo, hey yo, y'all real quick. My fault cut you off, G. Y'all just keep talking. I gotta mute myself for a second though, okay?
right.
All right, but keep talking.
You know, like so they never got to see any of those images because they were young girls.
That's a fact.
And I didn't want to present that to them.
Or persuade them into something else.
Right, persuade them into anything else because it's, you know what I mean? Like I said, at that point, they're kids, even like yourself, Mel. You know what I mean? Like, I shout you out a lot because I see how you are with your children.
And I appreciate
You know
you.
what I mean? And it's like, all right, it's going to be something like these children are going to grow up to be something because, they have that man. You know what I mean? And like you said, when you deal with this, like with the man cave, you really dealing with three different forms of masculinity, of
Right.
men. You know what I mean? You just dealing with it. Sometimes people might not see the outside conversations that we have amongst
Outside
one
of
another.
this, right? Yeah.
Right. How, like, they looking at this right now and it's like, oh, like these brothers got the utmost respect for each other. They love each other, which we
Right.
do.
This is the watered down version.
Right. This is the watered down version because you didn't get the version
Right.
that may have happened a couple
Before
hours
this,
ago
right.
or yesterday.
That's a
You
fact.
know what I mean? And what it is, it's just us being men.
Right.
Because as men, it's like, I want to be right. You know what I mean? I won. Or you know what I mean? Like, but like I said, we're able to have those conversations and still come back
hmm
to who we are. You know what I mean?
Well, that's because, and my apologies because if I'm a little bit off, Smoke Factory, no doubt. Good looking. My apologies, y'all. You know my cousin, man. But yeah, okay,
Because it's organic.
yes, and see, I think that when you have the understanding that we know what we are,
Right.
Right.
that's one of those.
And that's a big part of it too.
Yeah, that's one of those things. That's like a in-house kind of thing, not for the world, because the world is not going to understand what the see. Okay, now, let's say we in a different setting, correct?
Right.
Where let's go back to the original black men thing, right? But let's say you're around different groups of people.
Right.
They'll hear that same argument or that same debate rather, and they'll think, "Oh my God, it's getting ready to get volatile. It's about to be a situation. They about to come to blows. It's about to get physical." We know,
Not knowing it's far from that.
dog, I ain't gonna go there, bro. We ain't never going. That ain't what we do.
That's a fact.
Right.
I ain't gonna put my hands on neither one of them. They ain't gonna put their hands on me. We just gonna talk that ish and keep it moving because that's what men do. That's a
Yeah.
part of our makeup. That's a part of who
But
we are. We are masculine and we also see we embrace our masculinity. We just we don't just want to be men, but we want to be alpha males.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
it's
Exactly.
also a bit of a
Right.
pride thing. Like, nah, yeah, I won, or nah, I won, or you wrong, and you know what I'm saying? It's all that going on, and ain't nobody gonna budge, and that's why the argument don't never end because nobody's budging,
Right.
and then even when and if you know you wrong, you like, nah, I'm gonna still stand on my square just because your
Right.
pride.
Yeah.
You know
I'm
what
gonna
I mean?
stand on my square like you gonna stand on your square.
And that reminds me of that one episode of Fresh Prince, talking about Uncle Phil, and one of the early episodes, man, and Will Smith was talking to the Uncle Phil about being a man, whatever this, that, and the third, and he said, yeah, when a guy come up to you, Uncle Phil, when a guy come up to you and tell you, how do I get so and so? He said, you go up the corner, go right up there to the corner, you make a right, and whatever, blah blah blah. And he said, and they were like, yeah, but you don't really know where the place is at. You don't know where you're going. He said, yeah, but I'm a man. He ain't got to know that. I said it because I'm a man. I ain't got to tell him I don't know. You know what I mean? And that's prideful. Like, dog, just tell a man you don't know where he's going. You don't know. You know what I mean? But again, it's going back to just, I ain't saying I do that, but I'm just, I'm giving again, putting this thing in some kind of context. You know what I mean? But just going back to, just men being men. It's weird, but we think like that. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we're competitive. We
all the time.
All the time, you the freshest, or he's the tallest, or if we play basketball, I got a better handle than you, I got a better jump shot than you, I jump higher than you. If we rapping, dog, my flow is crazy, my flow right. better than yours, or my rhymes better than yours, and blah blah blah. Or if you a nigga that got money, I got to be the best in the room. I'm fresher than you, like my joints. You know what I'm saying? Like these joints ain't even came out yet.
By nature, so like that.
Right. So that's a hold on, say G, that's more of a cultural thing to some levels, for us in just talking about our community. You know what I mean? But again, there's certain things about us and our masculinity that other communities may not understand.
Right.
And it confuses them.
Right.
Like they don't know how to interpret a lot of those things. So they get, and so sometimes you get the one knucklehead, he overdoes it. It is just this, I love Popeyes too. I love Popeyes chicken, and you know what I mean? Like anybody asked you
that. So
and sometimes, and I would say this, and I'm gonna let you go, Mel, because I don't know how much time we got, but
yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like, I was gonna get your last thought, so I guess you can finish with what you about to say.
Yeah,
and then we go back to D, and then we wrap up.
Like what D Brown was just saying about being the freshest. I remember like a few years ago, I'm on a train, right? I'm going to work, so at this point, I'm a little older, and these young boys is coming back from Shaky. If you from the X, you definitely know about Shaky.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? But they was coming back from the new Shaky, man. The one that's on
is that Allenton?
Nah, Allenton was the old
one. The original, so the new one is on 138th.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Across the street from the projects.
Yeah. I think that's Millbrook or something like that.
It's something of that nature. I know what you're talking about, though.
It's close to Patterson, though.
Right.
I'm on the train. Young boys coming back. There's one young boy like, yo, but I got Shorty number. He like, yo, but you got her number, but I got 6. And his man is like, nah, but I got 10. And I'm just sitting there laughing, man, because I'm like, yo, that's what we do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what we do.
But before we went in, we was in there like, who gonna get the most? Remember the movie?
Yes.
What was the name of that movie? The Wood.
The Wood was like
when they was going into the dance.
Yes.
And it was like, yo, let's see who get the most numbers. Let's make a bet.
Alicia?
Yeah.
Oh, she worth 10 of them.
She worth 10 of those skeezers numbers. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and because that's what Shorty with the one number was saying. So man was like, yo, But he said, yo, but shorty, who number I got though? You saw it? You saw?
Mhm.
And I'm saying that cracking up. And like D said, it wasn't about like, yo, I like Popeye's chicken too. Sometimes you just gotta observe, man. And I looked at these little dudes, and it was a sense of pride in it because it was like, you know what? They little dudes, but they being men right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
Right.
this is what men do. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like this is what we do. Like you said, whether it's like, yo, my kicks is fresher than yours, or I just copped a $200 hat or
Right.
whatever, sidebar. But it's
Wow. Okay. Oh, you got me a dog. Okay, I got you. I was all into what he was saying too. I was sitting there like,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah,
right.
you know how he do it. So
like that.
so D, on the closeout,
Yeah.
anything you want to get out there before we get out of here?
I just just to not to recap the conversation, but put it later in the conversation. Just man, listen, let's not let society tell us who we are as men. You know what I mean? Embrace your masculinity, man. Be proud of that, man. That's how God made you. You know what I'm saying? God made you a man for a reason. You know, um, embrace it. Because it comes with being a man comes with a responsibility, just like being a woman comes with its own responsibilities.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And and listen, don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of that. Let's not allow them to weed us out. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, somebody got to put food on the table, take care of the crib. And I know,
Heavy is
we have a lot of and I'm not knocking, and we've never, we're not here to knock or try to dim the light on young entrepreneurial business women. We're not here to do that. We also, my mother's an entrepreneur. My mother has had her own business for over 20 years. You know what I'm saying? So I love that. But because of that, see, I come from a line of strong women. I'm blessed in that regard. I come from a line of strong women, from my mother to my grandmother to my great grandmother to my aunts. I come from a line of strong women. So any woman that deals with me has to meet a certain criteria.
Right.
You know what I mean? It ain't like I'm not asking you to be superwoman. You know what I mean? But again, I got standards just like you got standards. And let's just continue as men in all races and creeds and all nationalities, wherever you're from, man. Let's continue to embrace, our masculinity, not allow, society dictate who we are as men as a whole, not just black men, but men as a whole. You know what I mean? So let's get to work.
That's what's up. So yo, that's our show for the week. Make sure y'all follow us on Instagram at the Man Cave Podcast. To my side, that's D Brown. Down below, that's G Money. I'm M3L, and this is the Man Cave. Love is love. Peace.
hey,